Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
The Philadelphia who? The Philadelphia, huh? The Philadelphia Eagles, who the hell are they? It's almost as if they've taken a back seat. There's so much happening in late August, early September when it comes to the NBA playoffs. The Sixers blowing up. The Philadelphia Flyers on a cup run. There's so much happening and so much to distract you. The Philadelphia Eagles are flying under the radar, and that's never happened. That's not a thing. We're talking about the Birds here. And it's almost as if here they are, just doing their own thing, off to their own pace, off to the side, and there's not as much recognition. Now, obviously, that's going to happen when there's no preseason games to react to, there's no third stringer to overhype. Oh, look, he had 3 sacks in a preseason game. Yeah, he was going up against the 4th string offensive lineman. There's no one like that where you can really get all excited about because there's no games to see. There's no screaming fan, I want to see at least one good drive out of Carson. You don't have that reaction. So the Eagles, what are they doing? What have they been up to? Well, yesterday, some big-time news dropped that Andre Dillard will be out for the season. He needs surgery on his bicep, and that's a huge loss for this Eagles squad. Or is it? Because some speculate that Dillard wasn't going to have some insane successful season anyway. He has shown some iffy things in camp. He's shown some good things in camp, some iffy things in camp as well, though, which stands out a lot more without a doubt. Does this, though, make the line better, for right now at least, if Jason Peters slides to the left tackle position and Matt Pryor ends up going to right guard? Well, I think it does for right now, but you have to question, what's the long-term goal at left tackle? You will now enter year 3 of Andre Dillard, and you won't even know what the hell he is. He played a handful of games to this point. He is out for the year, and the next time you see him, you don't know what he is. And now you talk about the strength that he added, the weight that he put on. Now all of a sudden he's going to have to rehab this injury with the bicep. How's he going to get much stronger when you talk about the weight room and what he's going to have to do there? It's a big-time issue. Now, Brandon Brooks is going through the Achilles injury, and you know how he works, right? You know his mindset. You know the way that he attacks the grind and gets himself back into the right shape and finds a way to somehow return and be one hell of an elite player again. Maybe that happening to Brandon Brooks once again will help Andre Dillard because they'll do this together. Hey, Brandon Brooks is in his corner. Yo, I've been here before. You listen to me. We're going to make this happen. Don't put your head down. Don't slump your shoulders. It'll be all right. I promise you, I guarantee you, I've done this. Different injury, but I've been through this type of emotional pain before, and I've been disappointed that I had to miss out on significant time. Do not look down. Let's attack this together. Maybe. I mean, that could also be me being very optimistic. I've been losing optimism when it comes to Andre Dillard as I've been reading up on what's been happening, no doubt. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see what he ends up being and becoming. But there's a lot to dive into when it comes to the impact of Andre Dillard, the loss of him, sliding players into certain spots now in that offensive line. And there's some other news I want to get into with the Birds because I feel like it's been such a long time since I've talked about them, considering my mind has been all over the place with all these playoff runs. Can I even call the 76er squad a playoff run? No, I can't. So I take that back. We're going to listen to some phone calls from you. You reacted to the loss of Andre Dillard. Not only that, yesterday the news broke. I was on 97.3 ESPN at the time on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. We had Adam Kaplan, co-host of Inside the Birds podcast and NFL Insider, on the show to talk about this loss, and I want to react to what he had to say. Before we do, though, this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure your project is completed easily and properly using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. Make sure you check out their information. It's in the description. So, I know the big play that everyone was talking about recently was when Joe Osman barreled through Andre Dillard, got to Carson Wentz, got to his legs, and it could have been uglier than what it was. And it all started because Andre Dillard got completely waxed off of the line. And don't get me wrong, that's very concerning. I don't know what we have, and I think that's the problem here when it comes to Dillard. What do we have as a long-time answer at the left tackle position? It would be different if he showed pure dominance. It would be different if he was out there and he was tearing it up, nobody was getting by him, and then he got injured. It's like, okay, it's unfortunate. It's not the greatest news in the world, but at least you know when he returns down the road next season that this is a player that you can rely on and at least feel good about when it comes to being in that spot for a significant amount of time. I don't know. And to be fair, what has he shown us at this point where it's like, okay, I feel good about Andre Dillard. In his handful of playing time, in his handful of games where he did actually go out there and compete, I thought, okay, it's not that bad. It's definitely not the worst in the world. Some rookie mistakes, fine, but I think everyone is allowed to have rookie mistakes when you make the jump from college to NFL. And oh, by the way, you're playing the left tackle spot where you're going up against these elite, insane pass rushers that are not the same in the Pac-12 when you're playing at Washington. So I allow people to make rookie mistakes. That's inevitable. That's going to happen. So during his handful of time playing, I wasn't discouraged. But it's since then that I almost feel way more discouraged based off of the little things that we've been hearing about the kid. You need to move Jason Peters to the left. No doubt. But at this point, I question, wow, what happens if Jason Peters goes down? He's 38 years old. There's no way in hell, let me repeat this, there's no way in hell that a 38-year-old left tackle is playing 16 games in every single snap. Seriously, how can you prepare for that to happen? You can't. And then you start looking at this depth chart. Who is going to slide in when Jason Peters is not available? Because there's going to be a time where Jason Peters is not available. That doesn't mean he's not useful. I think Jason Peters was underappreciated last year, because of a couple false starts. A couple false starts makes it seem, this guy stinks. I say this all the time. Eagles fans are spoiled when it comes to the left tackle position because they've done a great job at making sure that that position has been fulfilled by someone who can compete at a very high level, who can do the job at such an elite rate to the point where you see a couple false starts and all of a sudden Jason Peters is toast. He's not reliable anymore. No. He is very reliable in terms of when he is available. It's just the injury factor. When he's playing out there on the field, it's not like he's some stiff. He can still do it. But we are spoiled in thinking that Hall of Fame level is the only level. He's not the Hall of Fame level anymore, but let's compare it to the rest of the league. Yes, there's better left tackles, but he is still up there when it comes to what he can provide. But there's going to be a time where he misses snaps. There might be a week where he misses a game. 38 years old. Who do you slide in there? Jordan Mailata? I asked Adam Kaplan, and we'll get his response in a moment. Would it be absurd if you see Lane Johnson go from right tackle to left tackle if you see Jason Peters go down? I don't know how you move forward with somebody else who's on this current roster. There's not a lot of experience there. Driscoll, I'm just naming players. Mailata is the tackle that they talk about when it comes to, or when they talk about Mailata, they say he is a tackle. So that's a name. Driscoll, Nate Herbig, although Driscoll's more of a right side guy who's been taking snaps on the right side. I'm just throwing out guys in the depth chart. There's not much. You don't have a lot there. But Lane Johnson hasn't even been out there. It's not as if Lane Johnson's been out on the field. It's been sidelined. It's crazy. This could be brutal. Game-changing. Season-changing, really. Right now on paper, I'm fine with Peters, Sayamalu, who's, by the way, apparently having a phenomenal camp, which is crazy to hear because it's not like he's the strongest left guard in the world, but it's nice to know that he's raising eyebrows. Jason Kelce, Matt Pryor, and Lane Johnson. On paper, that starting five, I'm all in. I'll sign up for that. Really, I would. I would sign up for that without knowing the alternative is Brandon Brooks at right guard. Like, I'm taking that away. I'll sign up for that. The problem is, what if someone goes down? Because as you see, it's been what? Oh, not even one game yet, and you lose 2 linemen for the year. I mean, come on. So to think that there's not going to be any more injuries, well, that's just being naive. All right, let's listen to what Adam Kaplan had to say about what's next for this offensive line since Dillard is now sidelined.
Yeah, so just checking into it, it's probably going to be Jason Peters just because of his experience. Jordan Mailata, who's been backing up a left tackle and took over for Dillard today after Dillard left practice. He's never played in a regular season NFL game. He's dressed for some, but he's never played in a regular season game. And remember, guys, he, like all NFL players, missed all of May and June. That's over 24 practices. There's no preseason games. And here's the big one. He missed the first 2 weeks of training camp because he was on the COVID-19 list.
It is interesting how they are intrigued by Jordan Mailata, but everyone's thinking the same thing. The guy hasn't even played an NFL game yet, and just like Adam alluded to, it's not as if this guy has had this full training camp for the coaching staff to go, this is where he is. We know that Mailata can go out there and stop someone from hitting Carson Wentz's blind side. You just didn't have the proper amount of time. It's unfortunate. If this was a normal situation and there was a normal training camp, maybe that gives Jordan Mailata more time to get the knowledge that he needs to in that spot, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. You have a left tackle Hall of Famer sitting on that offensive line. It would make no sense to keep him at right guard, which I thought was going to be a struggle to begin with. It would make no sense to keep him there and then throw someone who's never played the position in left tackle before in an NFL game. You have a Hall of Famer. I would be shocked. It wouldn't make any sense, right? I mean, it would not make any sense. See, when Jason Peters was signed, the conversation was not only, okay, look, he's someone that knows the system. He's obviously making a big transition in his career, but you can trust him to do it. If there's anyone to do it, it could be Jason Peters, right? That was the line that you heard a lot of people talk about, which I think is fair. I don't think that that's some ridiculous statement, but one of the big things that was brought up is, look, if Dillard goes down, you can at least slide him over. The problem is you didn't expect him to go down before he even played a damn football game. And you just wonder, with all these injuries happening, and it happening all over football, not just with the Eagles, what the hell is going on? You know, we talk about sports science and how you got to limit people's snaps, off days, not being able to hit. And I'm not one of those get off my lawn guys that you need 2-a-days in training camp and you got to beat up on everybody. But let's just look at the injuries over the last handful of seasons in the NFL. Not even just in the NFL, but in all of sports. There seems to be some sort of disconnect here with, oh, well, this guy had so much time off, but the soft tissue injuries here. I don't know. Something's just not adding up to me with all of these injuries while you're supposed to be limiting these guys in practice so stuff like this doesn't happen. And then on game days, people are getting hurt significantly. Something is just not adding up when it comes to how the sports science with rest days and injuries are all happening. So let's get to the love of Jordan Mailata.
I'm told 2 things about Mailata. Camp has been up and down, except for today. He had his best day at camp and was very, very good, and that's a good sign. I just would be kind of shocked if they went with Mailata. I know how much they like him, especially Jeff Stoughton, their offensive line coach. I just don't think there's enough time here to get to. If they would have had him in the offseason, they'd know where he was at and whether he'd be ready. It would stun me if they would stick him in at left tackle.
It's just interesting to hear Mailata's name so much. When he was drafted, obviously it was some sort of long-term project, and he hasn't had much action yet. at all in this league, and now you're starting to hear his name pop up a bit more and a bit more. I just wonder if he makes his debut in the NFL at some point this season, whether it's at left tackle, right tackle. Here's a horrendous situation that can happen because this is sports. What if Jason Peters goes down, which I see that happening at some point, for however long he's out for? I don't have the answer, but once again, you can't expect a 38-year-old to play 16 games in a season. So let's say he does go down. What if Lane Johnson goes down as well? What the hell do you do? And it's not ridiculous to think that that can play out because we've seen linemen fall. So what do you do then? I just feel that Mailata is going to get playing time this season. He's going to get his number called at some point this year. Look, they're obviously going to have to acquire someone. They're going to have to go out and make some sort of acquisition or they're screwed. They know it. I mean, they are forced to have to go make a play for some sort of veteran lineman out there. And this Vaitai conversation cracks me up. Oh, you should have paid Vaitai. You should have spent all that money. You need to make sure you have your offensive line depth there. You can't afford that for a swing tackle. The money he got, you can't pay that for a backup position at the line. It makes no sense. You can't just all of a sudden start complaining that Howie Roseman didn't sign Vaitai to that absurd contract. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, by the way, this is the same player that a lot of individuals hated, couldn't stand. Vaitai stinks. Oh, this guy's horrendous. Even after he won the Super Bowl at the left tackle position, he was getting roasted left and right. And sure, there were some moments that wasn't so pretty, but now all of a sudden the Eagles messed up by not keeping him and signing him to that insane deal. You can't criticize the Eagles for not doing that. It was insanely logical to not do it. You want to yell and scream about all these free agent acquisitions that they didn't go out and get, or they didn't trade for Ngakoue, they didn't trade for this guy, this superstar, that superstar. How would you even be in the conversation for those players, Clowney, if you were to sign Vaitai to the deal that he got? It's incredible. We got to use the brain, people. We need to use the brain. Now, I just mentioned how you need to find a way to sign some sort of lineman depth. Is there anybody out there?
I have an Excel file with every free agent and where they line up and how NFL people think about them. There are some left tackle considerations out there. Donald Penn, you might remember him, formerly of the Raiders and Redskins and other teams and Vikings. He's a mid-30s. He's serviceable. Cordy Glenn was a former first-round pick, you might remember, many years ago. Didn't work out with him last season with the Bengals. They cut him. He was a former first-round pick of the Bills. Started many games. He's a big guy. He could play left tackle.
Just a couple names to think about. When it comes to Howie Roseman picking up the phone and adding depth. Because it's going to happen. If it doesn't, they're screwed. If it doesn't, there's no way in hell that they're going to be able to compete because somebody is going to go down this season. Carson Wentz, it's possible he's running for his life. And I can't wait just to watch Carson Wentz in general. You know, he made a statement to the media the other day when he had one of his Zoom meetings and goes, year 5. Whew. Could you believe it? Year 5 already for Carson Wentz. I'm excited for him to take on this role and to really go out there and be explosive. Oh, by the way, for everybody who hated the Jalen Reagor pick because for some reason there was some absurd fascination with they need to go get some elite, insane number 1 wide receiver where, first off, we didn't even know if that was truly available in the area that they drafted. Don't give me the whole CeeDee Lamb crap. Jalen Reagor, he's going to have a big role in this offense. His speed is tremendous, and I told everyone, calm down. Calm down with Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, Deshaun Jackson. When you have people out there, you're so limited in terms of what one guy's impact is going to be. I'm not saying a superstar wide receiver with those players doesn't help this offense, but you have other weapons out there. The addition of Jalen Reagor is going to be a phenomenal phenomenal piece to this offense, and everyone's going to apologize for their reactions on draft night because there was this crazy, crazy thought that the only way the Eagles get better is they need some insane superstar elite player that wasn't even really there. Instead, you got a great wide receiver. Because I truly believe that Jalen Reagor is going to be a great wide receiver. You're going to see him in so many different areas, on the outside, in the slot. He's going to be moving. He's going to be utilized in so many different ways. The packages are going to be awesome. Can't wait. I mean, I just can't wait to prove everybody wrong when it comes to Jalen Reagor. It's going to be fun. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside apparently is making some noise as well. How funny is that? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. We heard about the injury that was bothering him last season. We didn't really want to buy it. He looked like a stiff. Well, we'll see what J.J. Arcega-Whiteside has. Alshon might be coming back before you know it. And I'm not an Alshon hater by any means. He's not the speed guy, but he's a reliable guy. Now, he's coming off the injury, so it's going to be different. Might not have the same pop that he had before. Not that he had some crazy pop coming off the line, but, he's reliable. The problem is, though, injuries. Injuries. This team is just constantly getting injured, and it seems like they can't escape that. But I mentioned the Lane Johnson, the left tackle comment, and I want you guys to hear Adam Kaplan's thoughts.
It's funny, Hunter. Over the years, I was told that Lane was resistant to do it. Would do it if if they said, look, we really need to do it, he would do it. But he got so used to playing the right side, and he was drafted as Peters' backup, Peters' replacement, but he did so well there, and Peters played longer than they expected. They made a decision to keep everything status quo, and look, he would do it. It was explained to me if they asked him, but he'd rather not do it. He'd rather stay on the right side.
All right, well, he'd rather stay on the right side, but if need be, he would go over to the left side. Just something to keep your eye out for, that's all. And one of the things, it's so crazy. If he ends up playing well, if Jason Peters, that is, going to left tackle, Jason Peters. If Jason Peters plays well, what do you do next year? Because he's been on the record saying he would like to play. He would like to continue to play for a couple more years. And not just like, hey, I want to play one more year. Like, he's on the record saying, I'd play deeper. If he plays well, what do you do? Do you go through this same process? Hey, JP, thanks for coming. We'll let you hit free agency. Keep your phone by you. And you go with Andre Dillard, someone you don't know what he is? That's going to open up a lot of questions. We're going to be going through a similar situation if JP ends up having a very strong campaign. Leave it to the Eagles to be in this type of scenario for more than 1 or 2 seasons. It just seems like the same combos coming up and up again. But think about it. I talk about let's look around the league. Right now it's, hey, do we keep bringing back our Hall of Fame left tackle even though he's 38 and he's still playing at a high clip? Oh, what a horrible situation to be in. Well, it kind of is, though. If you can look at it 2 ways. In reality, is it some horrendous scenario? No, it's not. But when you drafted a first-round pick, moved up to get him, and he's been sitting, and he's been getting hurt, well, that adds context to the conversation. And sure, I mean, it definitely does change the conversation a bit. I'll hear from a couple callers and react to what they had to say. The 24/7 Anytime Hotline, 856-442-9805. This is how you can call in to Sports Talk with Broads.
Well, gee, I'm just totally flabbergasted and shocked to read that Andre Dillard's out for the year. I mean, after a while, Hunter, my thoughts on this is I just stopped caring, basically, because this is inevitable with this team. They are the most tissue paper soft team in the National Football League. In a perfect world, I wish we could go back to the days of yesteryear in the NFL with training camps orchestrated by Buddy Ryan, where they would just beat the shit out of each other in camp so bad that playing in the actual games was nothing. I mean, the saddest part in closing is that there's more to come. You know Sidney Jones and Deshaun Jackson and Carson Wentz are getting hurt and are going to miss significant time, if not the whole year. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And that Washington game may not be the laugher that people think it's going to be to start the year. Chase Young against 120-year-old Jason Peters. Run for your life, Carson Wentz. Run for your life.
120-year-old Jason Peters. Come on now. Look, with Sidney Jones, oof. I mean, can we just start with how poorly he's been playing? I don't think you'll ever see Sidney Jones out there on the field unless it means you have some big-time injuries to other players, and then you'll probably never see him in an Eagles uniform again. He looks horrendous, and wow, all right, they took a gamble in that draft. They took a gamble on that second rounder of Sidney Jones. To be fair, the injury probably played a role, but it's more up here. It's more with the mental side of things. But, you know, you talked about Buddy Ryan and that type of situation when it comes to that type of intensity. I feel with the Eagles, they've tried a lot of different things when it comes to this staff and, you know, the medical team and things of that nature. They've tried different ways to look at this. Does it just come to this is how the NFL is? While you go typical Eagles with the soft tissue, isn't this just how sports are, how the NFL is at this point? The Eagles aren't going to say, hold on, let's go back to the old days while the rest of the league continues to go down this road. This might just be the nature of what it's going to be like for years to come. And sadly, I don't know if there's a change to that. Is there a change? I don't know. I don't know. But it's clear to me at this point that it's a common theme, and it's every year. And they are starting to make it softer for these players. No double headers in practice. No two-a-days, I mean. You don't get that anymore. You can only have limited amount of practices with pads on. You can only have a limited of practices taking guys to the ground. Is this all being a correlation to all of these injuries? I feel like the NFL should take a serious look at that and see and use the data. You would think that they already did that, but why does this continue to happen to a bunch of teams around the league? There needs to be a common theme on why this keeps occurring. And once again, I'm not one of these get off my lawn, you got to be making sure you get tackled 200 times before the season starts, but it's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty absurd. It's not just this year with the shortened season or the shortened training camps, that is. It's all the time. It's crazy.
Hey, bro. So, oh my gosh, where do I begin? Oh my gosh. So, Dillard's out for the year. That's two starters that are, gone for this season. Brooks, now Dillard. Personally, I think we should move Peters back to left tackle just because that's his natural position. I know the plan. I know that, in reps and stuff like that, this whole time he's been, working on, playing guard. But the thing is, his natural position is left tackle. I don't know if he can make that transition so quickly. So I think you're going to have to move him back to left tackle since we have a gaping hole there now. And at right guard, I guess you hope that Matt Pryor steps up, or you just sign another one to come in and play. But man, the loss of Dillard sucks. I mean, this is supposed to be the year he was going to break out and and whatnot. It just sucks because it's a big loss, and I was actually really looking forward to how he was going to play. But
I agree with you. I agree that I was looking forward to seeing what he was going to be. I don't know if I agree with this was going to be his breakout year because I don't think any of us knew. And I think that's why I was so interested to see what type of player he was going to be. It's upsetting that we didn't get to see what the first-round talent that they selected is all about. You need him to go out there so we can say, oh, this is what we have. We don't even know. It's not going to be established. We have no clue. And then you got to bring him back for his third season. He'll be entering his third year when he's back out there again, and we don't know. And let's be realistic. It's not as if we're sitting here and expecting him to be dominant based off of what we have seen. We're already expecting him to probably fail more so than be this explosive left tackle that's blocking everything that comes his way. It's definitely concerning, and I think long term, this opens up a bunch of questions. Can you move forward with Andre Dillard. Now, obviously, they're not going to give up on him this quickly, but I think the leash should be short. If he comes out year 3, which is the first time you'll see him, hopefully, that's based on what Jason Peters does this year and if he wants to continue to play. But, I mean, if he comes out and he stinks, what do? Well, you got to look at another option because you can't continue to throw that out on the field. You'd have to admit you made a mistake, which they've made plenty of mistakes before when it comes to that draft board.
I sit here and I take a breath of fresh air and I think, what the heck, man? We go out and we pick Andre Dillard in the first round, which, okay, I kind of get it. Jason Peters is getting old. But now he's just a liability. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, we skipped out what could have been talent. We could have actually gotten good talent here. I'm not saying Andre Dillard is talented, but he's yet to prove that he's first-round talent. He's yet to prove that he's durable. And I just don't think the front office made a good decision in drafting him in the first round, honestly. This pick is coming back to bite us too many times. Not too many times, but a good amount of times. That's my frustration, and thanks for listening.
I can hear your frustration. I think it's too early, though, to say, the Eagles screwed this thing up. You just don't know. You don't know what he is. Now, you can be a little skeptical of how they played it out. You got a first-round pick. He's not playing. You have Jason Peters, but you need to plan for your offensive line to be ready once your Hall of Famer leaves. So I get their mindset there, and him getting injured, it's not anyone's fault that he needs to have surgery on this bicep. You just don't know. Is it looking like it's, does it look promising? I think it's fair to say probably not, but you just don't know yet. I think you'll know when he finally gets out there on the field. Year 3, you'll know more about him, but let's talk about the rehab. Let's talk about him getting back into shape. Let's talk about him getting to where he wants to with his body. Not only that, how about where he needs to be mentally to go out there and produce at a high level? This offseason is going to be huge, and I just wonder if Brandon Brooks going through a similar scenario at the same time is really going to benefit him. If this happened if Brandon Brooks was healthy, and if this happened when Brandon Brooks was injured, if you got 2 different Andre Dillards in year 3. And I think that that's an interesting way to look at this when you look at optimism, if you want to be one of those fans looking with optimism. There you go. There you have it. The Philadelphia Eagles off to a pretty tough start when it comes to keeping people upright. What do you know? Shocker. It seems like a common theme for a couple of years now. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.